This is Gemara and Yoma Daf Yomi, the learning for this month, the month of Iyar, and Hashem Reifecha, the wonderful skula for Refuah Shlema has been generously sponsored L'schos Refuah Shlema for Rivka Bas Sheva, as well as L'schos Refuah Shlema for Tzali Sfiba and Michal Esther. They should have a tremendous recovery, and we're hoping by the time this month ends, we should hear wonderful news that they both should have a tremendous Refuah Shlema. Of course, the rest of our Cholim Men Rebei Chaim and Sarah Shalom and Sfiba and Rezei Zar Baskin Endel Basin Chayzei Yizol Mindel Pin Shavlei Shamas Naami by Shavafei Roshi V'Chaner Fal Domini Teriva. Shmo ben Tila Dinam and Chana Rezel. Milchai Basmin the Brachos of Miza Dinir which in Minz of Kotavim and Fagers Sviv and Fagit Vera Michaelis Venezuela Huva Menachem Mendel ben Teva Besoisha Choli Israel, as well as Chos Ilin Neshama for Shaul ben Yosef, and finally as Choshedef Adalea Basita and Menachem Mendel ben Elisheva. We pick it up in the top of Yud Amid Aleph, continuing the theme of yesterday. We're going to have a bit of a Gadata for Amid Aleph. Amid Beis will get us into more of the Sugya of Mezuzah, the different rooms in the Beis HaMikdash, and that is going to be today. Tomorrow we're going to have a full day of Hilchos Mezuzah. So we pick it up on the top of Yud Amid Aleph, and says the Gemara. Yesterday we quoted Rav Yochanan. The Rav Yochanan taught us that even though Rav Chana seemingly said that, Rish Lakish seemingly said that if everyone would have went up in the times of Ezra after the first Beis HaMikdash to Eretz Yisrael, the second Beis HaMikdash would have stood. Says Rav Yochanan, it's not true. Yafta Lakim Liyafes V'Yishkim Ba'al Shem, and he explained that meant was that even though Yafta Lakim Liyafes, which we learned meant that the children of Yefes, the Persians, they had the allowed for the second Beis HaMikdash to be built, still the Shechina was not Sheira, rather Ba'al Shem. So says the Gemara now, 2 lines down, and just to point out that the first part of today is really going to be lots of different psukim, lots of different names and places and everything here, as we always point out, is many more pshatim, many more meanings. We're just going to touch the surface. So says the Gemara, how do we know that the Persians came from Yefes? It says in the Ta'ira the following pasuk: these were all the children of Yefes. Now the Gemara goes through to explain each one of these children. Goimar ze Germania, which the Goin says is Germania. Magoig ze Kandaya, Modai ze Macedonia. Yavon Kimashma is Yavon. Tubal ze Beis Yunaiki. Meshech zu Masya, Tiros. What's Tiros? Pligabar Rav Semai v'Rabbanan V'Amila Rav Simoin v'Rabbanan. Chana Marzu Beis Tzaraiki v'Chana Marzu Paras. So we have all these different places. Going Margamad Yavon Tubal Meshech Tiros, and the Gemara just explained where these 6 places are. To quickly point out is that Goimar is, we said, is Germania. Magog is perhaps a Greek island of Crete. Madai is a place in northern Iran, eastern Turkey. Yavon is Greece. Tubal is, the Barbanel says, the Spaniards. Meshech is west of a place called Bithynia. I don't think I pronounced that right, I apologize. And Tiras is either modern day Iran or a part of Turkey. And once we get into this discussion, which we got into, why? Because we quoted a pasuk about Yefes, the Gemara continues describing other nations. Tani Rav Yosef, Tiras zu Pras. That was the previous thing that Rav Yosef learned, that Tiras was Pras. The Persians, which of course, that's what we brought down, let's not forget, that's what we brought it down, was to show that Yefes, which was one of the children of Yefes, was Persia, which is what Yafta Lakim the Yefes, the previous Gemara. Safta Verama, Saftacha, these 3 children of Cush, who were they? Tani Rav Yosef, Sakis son, Givyasa, Sakistan, Givyasav, Sakistan, Braisa. These were the 2 types, 2 parts of one is the inner, one is the outer Sakistan. Between these 2 places is Mea Parsi, was 100 parses. Ve'ikifan, the circumference was Aleph Parsi, 1,000 parses. And the pasuk continues, Vati Reishes Mamlachle Bavel, and the beginning of their kingdom was Bavel, Ve'erech, Ve'eched, Ve'elkanah. And places Erech, Elkan, and Elkanah, Bavel. And now we explain those 4 again. Bavel, Erech, Elkan, and Elkanah. Where are these 4 places? Bavel is Kimashmai, Bavel. Erech zu Arichos. Erech is a place called Arichos, which we should really take this as we go, so we'll try to do that. That's somewhere in the lower Euphrates River, southern Bavel. Ve'ekad is Baskar, which is also part of Bavel, and Kelna zeh Neifar. This is referring to Neifar, Ninfei. Those are the two names of Kalne, which also was southeastern Iraq, part of Bavel. And the pasuk continues, Min Aretz Ahi Yatza Asher. From that land, Asher went forth. Tani Rav Yosef Asher Zu Siluk. Asher is Siluk, west of the Tigris River. Vayiven es Ninveh, and they built up Ninveh ves Rechaves Ayir, and the cities and Rechaves Ir ves Kelach and Kelach. Ninveh is Kamashmai Ninveh. Rechaves Ir, what is that referred to? Zeh Paras, that's Paras. Paras, the Meshan, the Paras of Meshan. Kelach Zu Paras, the Borsif, that's Paras of Borsif, which by the way is the place of the Migdal Bavel. And the pasuk continues, ves Resen bein Ninveh ubein Kelach. He Ha'ir Hagadaylah, that was the great city. What's Ir Hagadaylah? Resen Zang Tisvan. Here Ir Hagadaylah. Ina Yadea. We don't know what was the Ir Hagadaylah. Ina Yadea in Ninveh Ha'ir Hagadaylah in Resen Ir Hagadaylah. It is unclear. Kshoimer. But then when the Torah says V'Ninveh Ir Hagadaylah Lelekim Ma'alech Shlishes Yamim Havayaimer Ninveh Ir Hagadaylah. Now we know that Ninveh was the great city. And then we continue quoting psukim, continue trying to figure out different locations. Now we're moving along to a different psukim when Kalev came to Chevron, Vishem Achiman, Shishai V'Talmai, Yelidei Anak. And the pasuk says, Visham, and over there, what was there? These people, Achiman, Shishai Tima, Yelidei Ha'anak. Explains the Gemara on the first medium-sized line, Tanu, we learned in the Mishnah, Achiman is Miyoiman Shabachin, the most powerful of the brothers. Shishai is Shemisim Es Ha'aretz, V'Eshchisos. This refers to that he made the earth into runes, that he crushed the whole world. Talmai Shemezim Ha'aretz Talamim. Then he made the whole world into furrows like Talamim. Davar Acher, another pshat is Achiman Bana Anos. Achiman built Anos. Shishai is Bana Alush, built a place called Alush. Talmai Bana Talbush, Yelidei Anak, Shamanika Nachama B'Kaimaisan, that it looked as if the sun was a necklace for them. They were such tremendous giants that it looked like the sun, they were wearing the sun as a necklace. Now, we continue with the discussion. We started off today with Yaftal Kim Yefes, that the descendant of Yefes was the Persians who allowed for the second base of Mikdash to be destroyed. Now we're going to say what happened after that. Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, says Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, moving along to the second very wide line. Omar Rabbi, Asida Roimi Shetibel Biad Paras. The Romans are going to fall into the hands of the Persians. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, L'chein Shimu Atzaz Hashem Yashayas. Listen to the advice of Hashem that he devised a plan, in the plans that he planned, if he did not conceive against the Tziri Atayim, lo yasim aleim noyam, if he did not place against their devastation in their dwellings. So says the Gemara, what does this pasuk refer to? So maskiv la Rav Bar Ula. So the Gemara just seemed to have said that this pasuk is teaching us that the Persians fell into the hands of the Romans. Asks Rav Bar Ula, my mashma the height Tziri Atayim parasu. How do you know that when the pasuk said that the Tziri Atayim, that's where that's referring to the Persians and they're in the hands of the Romans? How do you know that Tziri Asayin is the Persians? The pasuk says that the pasuk tells us that the ayil, the ram asher isa bal karnayim, that had horns, malchei madai uparas, the kings of madai uparas. But I ask the Gemara, so you're telling me that Tziri Asayin refers to paras, ema yavan? Maybe there's a different pasuk that seems to indicate that referring to yavan. We see that the next pasuk talks about the Yavan, the Greeks. So how do you know that the Romans are going to fall into the hands of the Persians? Maybe the Romans will fall into the hands of the Greeks. Answers the Gemara. The Gemara actually doesn't really go into the answer, but the Gemara now quotes a story which is going to further this discussion. Kisal Rav Chaviva bar Sarmaki, when Rav Chaviva bar Sarmaki went up to Eretz Yisrael, Amra Kamei Dahumi Rabbanan, he said in front of the Rabbanan there in Eretz Yisrael, Amra Le Mandlo Yada Peirushay Karai Moisef Tiyavta. Those who did not understand the psukim, that's why you had a question. L'Rabbi, that's why they had a question. My Tziri Atzayin, Zutra Dachui. You know what Tziri Atzayin is referring to? That's referring to the Zutra Dachui, the youngest of the sons of Yefes, which is Tiras. The Tani Rav Yosef, Rav Yosef taught Tiras Zeh Paras. So the reason that we know that the pasuk is referring to Paras, that the Romans will fall into the hands of the Persians, is because Tziri Atzayin is referring to the youngest of the brothers, referring to Paras. Says the Gemara, another raya that the Romans are going to fall into the hands of the Persians. Amar Rabbi Achanam Rabbi Yechon Mishum Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Eloi. Asida Rami Shetibel Biad Paras. The Romans are going to fall into the hands of the Persians. Kal v'chaymer. We have a raya from a kal v'chaymer. Umma mikdash rishon shebanu b'nei Shem. Had the first Beis Hamikdash that was built by the children of Shem, Shlomo HaMelech, v'chiruvua ba'kistayim, and was destroyed. Excuse me. V'chirua. One more time. I'm sorry, we're having issues over here. V'chirua ba'kistayim, and was destroyed by the Kasdim, yet naflu Kasdim biad Pershim. Yet we find that the Kasdim, they fell into the hands of the Persians. Mikdasheni, so the second Beis Hamikdash, Shebeno Pershim, that the Persians were the ones that led to be built, which of course, that's how we started off today, that they were the ones that gave permission for the second Beis Hamikdash. V'chiruvua Romim, and was destroyed by the Romans. Einoi din sheyiplu Romim biad Persians. Certainly they shall fall to the hands of the Persians. Again, let's just speak to that one more time. The first Beis Hamikdash who built it, Shlomo HaMelech, the Ahlei Shem, as we saw yesterday, the descendants of Shem, and yet it was destroyed by the Kasdim. And then what happened after that? The Kasdim fell to the Persians. We see that the Persians were the ones that got to take vengeance and to take over the Beis Hamikdash. So the second Beis Hamikdash that the Persians themselves allowed to be built, and then the Romans destroyed. So certainly it's only right, Kal v'chaymer, that it should come back to the hands of the Persians. That is what the first opinion said, Rav Yehuda, Rav Eloi. But now says the Gemara, Marav, no, the opposite. Rav said, no, really the Persians are going to fall to the Romans. The Romans are going to get the second Beis Hamikdash. Amrei Rav Kana, Rav Asi, the Rav, Banoi biat Tzituri. That doesn't make any sense. What? The builders, the ones that allowed the Beis Hamikdash to be built, the Persians, they're going to fall into the hands of the destroyers, into the Romans? How could that be? So the first teretz is, Amar Lahu, answers the Gemara, such an important teretz in Gezeras Melechi. That's the decree. God so decreed, and that's the way. It doesn't make sense. So be it. The second teretz is Igad Yamri Amar Inu Nam Yakas Asri. They also destroyed it. Bekinishta. They also destroyed. The Persians also destroyed many shuls. And therefore, it's not a question why the Persians are going to lose and they're going to lose to the Romans, because the Persians as well, unfortunately, destroyed many of our holy structures. Taninami Hachim, we have a right out, which we just said. Asida Parashati will be at Roimi. The Persians are going to fall to the Romans. Chadun Abron Tzitzi Bar Knishta, they destroyed their shuls. It's a decree of God that the builder should fall to the hand of the destroyer. And now the Gemara continues. Di Amar, it's a little bit confusing. The Di Amar, but really it's a bit of a new statement. But either way, the Amar Rav Yudah Marav Ein Ben David Ba Tifshait. I'm sorry. Malchus Raimi Arasha B'Chol Olam Kulai Tishim Chadashim. Though Beis Hamikdash is not going to come, the Gula Asida Lavai, the third Beis Hamikdash will not come until there's a 9-month period of the Romans ruling. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Yeshuva Bnei Yisrael. It's only going to be once there's a Leda, a 9-month period. Of course, we know that the Galus has been much more than 9 months, but it means strictly that the Romans will be completely in control. That's when the Beis Hamikdash will come. That's the end of this piece of Agadata. Now we get back to our Lishkas Parhedrin, back to the Beis Hamikdash. Says the Gemara Tanur Rabbanan. 7 lines from the bottom. The only room in the entire Beis Hamikdash that had a mezuzah was the Lishkas Parhedrin. Why? Shayabah based the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol lived there for 7 days, so needed a mezuzah. Amar Rav Yehuda, 1 second. There were many rooms that they lived in. What do you mean? There were no mezuzahs. So Rashi explains, where the Leviim, the Kehanim, they guarded the Beis Hamikdash. They were there overnight also. So they also were there. So why isn't that called living that you require a mezuzah? So Rav Yehuda's opinion, important to know, because it's going to be the rest of the day, the whole Amid Beis. Rav Yehuda holds that really the Lishkas Parhedrin was exempt. It was potter from mezuzah. The chiv of mezuzah was a gezeira. It was a decree, but it's not a real obligation. It's a din derabanan. Says the Gemara, my time of Rav Yehuda. Where did Rav Yehuda get this? So Amar Rava. So Rava explains, Kasav Rav Yehuda kol bayish ein asili moisachamim moisakishamim einoi bayis. A house is only something made for the summer and the winter, so it's not a house. Says the Gemara, so the base of Mikdash is not a house. So no mezuzah. Ask Abaye, what do you mean? What does it say in the Torah? We see that the Torah refers to a house as Abaye is a house, even if it's just for the summer or just for the winter. So says Abaye, it should have a mezuzah even just for one. This says no. You're right, it's called a summer house, a winter house. It's not called a house, and the obligation for mezuzah is a house. Teretz number 1. Abaye is not done. Sukkis achag b'chag. What about a sukkis on Yantif? Rav Yehuda mechayev b'chacham and b'aitrim. Rav Yehuda says you have to put up a mezuzah. So Rav Yehuda requires a mezuzah on a sukkah for 7 days. He certainly should require a mezuzah on the Beis Hamikdash. V'tani alon. We explained in that brayso. Rav Yehuda mechayev. What does it mean? He's mechayev be'erev mezuzah b'maiser. Chayev be'erev if it's open up into different rishos. Mezuzah like we just said, and maiser that we know the din of maiser. There's only an obligation when it's raw pnei habayis. When you bring in the produce to your house, says Rav Yehuda, if you bring it into the sukkah, that's called a bayis. So you see, according to Rav Yehuda, 7 days is enough to be called a house. Maybe you'll tell me midrabanan. Maybe you'll tell me the whole obligation of that mishnah is a din derabanan. So fine, you can tell me that the obligation of the obligation of mezuzah is din derabanan. Elo meiser mikla midrabanan. Is it possible to say that the obligation of meiser is derabanan? It can't be. We've seen this before. If we have a rabbinic injunction obligating meiser, it's going to cause them problem because if people don't know that, they're going to come. We know you let us separate meiser one item on the next, and they're going to think there's a real obligation. They're going to come to separate on something which has a din daraisa, and this doesn't. So says the Gemara, we have a clear raya according to Rav Yehuda that it should be called a bayis. It should be obligated in a mezuzah even for 7 days. So why, Rav Yehuda, do you hold that the lishkas parhedrin has no chiyuv mezuzah? Ella Amar Abaye. So that was all Rava's pshat. That was how Rava came along and explained the opinion of Rav Yehuda that Rav Yehuda held there's no chiyuv mezuzah because only a house for the summer and the winter. Says Abaye, I have a new pshat. Elo Amar Abaye, a 7-day dwelling, everyone agrees is a mezuzah. Keep ligi, what's the machlokes? Bishar yemois hashana. The machlokes Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim is the rest of the year. Rabbanan Savikas Yinash yemois hashana to Shiva. The Rabbanan held the lishkas barhedrin always needed a mezuzah. Why? Gezerah, to make sure a decree that during those 7 days it had a mezuzah. We're so nervous the Kohen Gadol is going to come in for 7 days, sleep and live there, and there'll be no mezuzah. So the whole year we obligated a mezuzah. Rav Yehuda Savar, no, like Azrinan. So that's the machlekes. Meaning, on Amid Aleph we quoted a brayso where Rav Yehuda said, "Why are you putting a mezuzah on Lishkas Bar Hedron? There's no obligation." So Abai is explaining. Rav Yehuda was pointing out the rest of the year during the 7-day time period that the Kohen Gadol is going to be there. Even Rav Yehuda agrees there's an obligation. Because it's 7 days, like a sukkah of chag on Yantif. When did Rabbi Yehuda disagree? The rest of the year. Is Rabbanan held? Is it din the Rabbanan Gezerah for the rest of the year as well? Amar le Rava. Now Rava asks back to Abaya. For sukkahs are chag b'chagatani. But how can you say that? But it says that the sukkahs of chag that is on Yantif. Meaning, what's Rava's problem? Rava says that you just told me that what's the machlokes? That everyone agrees that you need a mezuzah on a 7-day period. 1 second. What do we see in Amman Aleph? Sukkahs achag b'chag, Rabbanan held your chayiv, but the Chacham held your potter. But you, Abaye, just said that everyone agrees that for 7 days you need a mezuzah. Clearly, we see that's not true. Elo Amar Rava, so Rava has a different shot. How Abaye will answer, we don't get into, but Elo Amar Rava has a new shot. Bishar Yimais Hashana, Kli Amalei Peligi de Betura. Everyone agrees that the rest of the year there's no mezuzah on the Lishkas Bar Hedron. Ki peligi b'shiva, the machlokes Rav Yehuda and the Chachamim is like Rav Yehuda Rav originally suggested, and now I'm going to explain. Is during the 7 days of the Kohen Gadol separation. V'sukkah time l'chad v'lishka time l'chad, and each one has its own reason. Sukkah time l'chad Rav Yehuda l'tamei damar sukkahs tira kevabina numar chayiv mezuzah. Rav Yehuda held that a sukkah. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. One more time. Elamar Rav Shaimus Hashan Kulam l'bligi de Betura. Ki peligi b'shiva. We're only arguing about the 7 days, and Rashi points out that both by the Lishka and the Sukkah. That's what I said wrong. I said it was only referring to the Lishka Parhedrin. The Gemara is saying they're arguing about the 7 days by Sukkah and the Lishka's Parhedrin. One more time. Sukkah time l'chad v'lishka time l'chad. Sukkah time l'chad Rabbi Tamei Damar. Sukkah diras kava binanu machayim mezuzah. It's a fundamental machlekes about Sukkah. Real the Sukkah is a real Sukkah diras kava. So you need a mezuzah. Rabbi Tamei Damar Sukkah diras Rabbi binanu machayim mezuzah. And by Lishka it's a separate machlekes. Time l'chad. Rabbi does the Kohen Gadol have a choice if you can go into Lishka's Parhedrin? No. He's forced to be there. Says the Chum, I don't care. That's called dwelling. You're there for 7 days. You need to put up mezuzah. Rav Yehuda Savar. It's not called living in a place that you're forced to live there, but rather so why do they have to put up the mezuzah and Lishka's Parhedrin? We don't want people to think he's in jail. If people see him in a place with no mezuzah, they're going to assume he's mamish forced there. So we purposely make him put up a mezuzah. But the reason Rav Yehuda held that there's no obligation of mezuzah according to Rava is because he's forced to be there, whereas the Rabbanan held there is yes an obligation. A separate machlokes about Sukkah, Rav Yehuda holding diras keva, Rabbanan holding diras harai. That is Rava's explanation. Abaye learned that everyone held that the 7 days you needed a mezuzah. The machlokes was rather if we made a gezerah for the rest of the year Lishka's Parhedrin, and we'll pick it up from here tomorrow.